Howdy do, fellas. Nothing but water today, ladies and gents, because water is good for you. Probably the next video, which is going to be filmed like a few minutes after this one, I'm probably actually going to have something, but I'm saving that for the last video. Mostly because this movie, which is a continuation in the Scooby-Doo review series that I've been doing, the Scooby-thon, the marathon, the Scooby review, if you will. That is, this next movie's not the best, in my opinion. So, we're going to go on, we're going to get to it. This is a videotape. And much like a lot of tapes that I've shown here, this is taped off of another videotape. The side here says Scooby-Doo. I don't know if you can tell that, but it does say Scooby-Doo in green. And right here, it says Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. That's what we're going to be reviewing today. We're specifically going to be reviewing this tape. This is not an official release. This is taped off of a tape. So, deal with it, ladies and gents. I have it on DVD, but I thought it'd be cooler to review the VHS as well. So, let's go ahead and get to it, alright? So, much like Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood just under a decade before the release of this film, this one begins with an atmospheric opening, sort of typical of Scooby-Doo. Casey Kasem is still Shaggy, and Don Messick is still both Scooby and Scrappy. Both are still rather good in their roles. Kasem also plays a monster created from his literal mirror image that makes for a pretty cool sequence later in the movie. The overall plot starts like this. The boys are on their way to a new job. They're gym teachers for Miss Grimwood's School for Girls. The three seem to sort of have become these itinerant teachers in their time away from the rest of the gang. However, they do not know that the school is ready for for them in a different kind of way. They are ghouls, not just girls. They are girly ghouls. They are ghouly girls. This fact introduces us to an interesting cast of characters that really deserve a detailed discussion. And of course, we're going to discuss that. By the way, Andrea Romano did the casting for this, and if you know her work, you know she always does a great job. She also worked on the previous movie. You gotta like Andrea Romano. Great work. Firstly, there's Miss Grimwood herself, played by Glynis Johns of Mary Poppins fame. She looks kind of like a female Peter Lorre dressed as Ozzy Osbourne. She's very lovable. Next, there's Matches, a miniature dragon, played by the great Frank Welker. Matches may be the most memorable thing about the whole movie, based solely on the impression I've been given by fans of the movie. While I'm on Papa Frank, he also plays Papa Werewolf, one of the girls' fathers, and the Well Dweller, a giant monster that lives at the bottom of a well. All three performances are good, especially Matches, and these three characters prove that even when Fred Jones isn't present, Scooby-Doo cannot exist without Frank Welker. I also think he probably played virtually all the non-casted characters. That's just my personal opinion, and mostly I think it's just wishful thinking. But he did great in here. Papa Frank's always the best. So, continuing on down the line, we meet a disembodied hand without a voice. We also meet an octopus dressed like a butler, which is pretty crazy. And then we start to see the Grimwood girls. First, we see Sabella, the daughter of Dracula. The physical design of Sabella is really good, but the writing, voice, dialogue, music, and the images make her rather over-sexualized for a character that is literally a child. This is a little weird and kind of cringe-inducing on rewatches, but not entirely out of character for a female vampire. Still, it deserves repeating that this is one aspect that absolutely isn't worthy of praise. Sabella also begins one of the most entertaining aspects of the film, which is puns. Endless puns from this point through the end of the film. One should also mention that Sabella is played by Susan Blue, who lends a sultry voice to the already sexualized character. Then, in quick succession, we meet the rest of the Grimwood girls. Winnie the Werewolf, played by Marilyn Schreffler. You might note her name from Scooby Goes Hollywood. Elsa Frankenteen, I think it might be Frankenstein, I don't know, but it's definitely not Frankenstein. But she's played by Pat Music, you might also remember her name. Tanis the Mummy, played by Patty Maloney, and Phantasma the Phantom, the great Russie Taylor of a lot of stuff. She's fantastic here as well. Really, really interesting voice. We also later meet the Callaway Cadets, students at a military academy for kids. They are Baxter, played by Remy Auberjonois, I think is how you pronounce that name. Grunt, played by Jeff Cohen. Miguel, played by Aaron Lohr. And Tug, the great Scott Menville, who at one point played Shaggy in maybe the worst series of Scooby-Doo ever. And let's see, and Jamal, played by Bumper Robinson. And then there's their headmaster, Colonel Calloway, who is played by Ronnie Shell. They are funny characters that are kind of diverse for their time period and the military nature of their characters. It's pretty enlightened of the writers to kind of consider the military as it is. You know, people who ultimately want to do good, though they also do bad things once in a while, like cheat at volleyball, and they're rather kind of open-minded and diverse. But at one point, we also meet the girls' fathers. We meet Dracula and Daddy Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, played by Zale Kessler. The Mummy Daddy, played by Andrei Sochka, who also plays a major baddie called the Grim Creeper. We'll get to him later. The aforementioned Daddy Werewolf, played, of course, by the great Frank Welker. And the Phantom Father, played by the great Hamilton Camp, who you will notice will come up later in this in the next review. Some of these sound rather stereotypical, but ultimately they're kind of charming and even a little funny. And then finally we have the revolting villain Revolta, played by Ruta Lee, who seeks to control these Grimwood girls to get at their powerful fathers. She's a fine character, but the writing behind her, specifically the dialogue, is pretty bad. And the same goes for her servant, the Grim Creeper, that we recently mentioned. He's pretty silly. In fact, most of the dialogue is that way. Not to sound like a jerk or anything, but the dialogue took a significant downgrade in the previous, to the previous HB Superstars 10 movie, Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers. Usually I would wait a while before starting on the screenplay, but I think now is the time to begin. Screenwriter Glenn Leopold, who, by the way, helped write the classic 1980s slasher The Prowler, is really good at coming up with this interesting, imaginative idea of this movie. Really interesting plot and really interesting concept. That's evident from the outset. But the problem is the dialogue. I mean, like I said, it's really bad. Another problem is the structure. The film really lags in the middle, and there's plenty of unnecessary stuff shoved into the movie that just doesn't add much of anything. The characters are good and the plots are imaginative, but that's not enough to make it well written. There's also a section near the end where Scrappy raps. That's the HB people's fault. I think there's a song credit written by like Hanna-Barbera. The guys, literally the two guys, Hanna-Barbera, maybe William Hanna specifically. But it's still not good writing. In fact, it's terrible, and I may be a little tough on this children's cartoon, but children deserve better. Don't the children deserve better, guys? As for the animation, I've spoken already about the characters who are designed rather well. All the Grimwood girls look great, and so do their monster fathers. Even the Callaway Cadets look good with these well-articulated facial features and some nice clothing designs. Repulsa and the Grim Creeper are great-looking original monsters. Everything looks good here, character-wise, but the animation is still fairly limited, and the backgrounds, though good for the limited side-scrolling animation, are still of a lower quality. It's a reasonably well-directed film, but there's not much of a clear or deep vision by director Charles A. Nichols. The music provided by composer and alumnus of Boo Brothers, Sven Liebach, is fine, but nothing special. Even the incidental music played on a gramophone isn't really special. I do want to analyze this film just a bit, basically on the note that Glenn Leopold does give us some pretty non-traditional characters here. So, I'm no SJW, but it is interesting that the Grimwood girls are looked at as more powerful than their fathers. It's an interesting feminist point to make, and though it doesn't seem backed up until the end, they do make it out that way. It's also fairly subtle, which I think is the right way to do things. I've also mentioned that the multicultural nature of the Callaway Cadets interests me, and so I have to think that there was some point trying to be made about the goodness of youth within these two structures, the monster world and the military world. Are the Callaway Cadets goofy? Yeah, they are, but they're good, and they ultimately do good. Where Boo Brothers succeeded with this fun, twisty mystery plot without a message, this is a movie with a message, some good concepts, and good characters that just ultimately doesn't work out. Overall, I like Ghoul School alright, but not to the extent I like Boo Brothers. The length makes it less rewatchable than Goes Hollywood, but the characters draw the viewer in, even if they're ultimately leaning toward disappointment. I'd give this a 6.5 out of 10, but I don't deny the appeal to fans of the franchise, and especially of this movie. I know there's a ton of fans of this particular movie. It's a fun movie. Gotta put that out there, especially the first probably half hour. That's some fun stuff. But around the middle part of the movie, it really starts to grate, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion of this movie. You guys sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. This tape is in moderately good condition, actually, for being a tape taped off of a tape. So you got that going for you. The picture quality is okay. The sound quality is okay. The sound mixing on the movie in general, by the way, is not great, but that's kind of a hallmark of all these Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 movies of the Scooby-Doo variety. I can't talk about the ones from the other franchises that they did, you know, Huckleberry Hound and such like that, the Flintstones. But I can talk about Scooby-Doo, and a lot of the sound mixing isn't that great, especially in this movie and in the next one we're going to review. But this is a fine tape. I definitely will watch this probably more often just for the nostalgia factor. So there you go. And I've got it in a TDK AQ Advanced Quality Sound and Color T182 Super Avalon Technology, 6 hours in EP mode. Full lifetime warranty. So let's cash in on that. But guys, this was a fun review. It was fun to watch this movie, and it was fun to watch the next movie I'm going to review, which will be up probably right after this one. Gonna do that review soon, guys. Rock on. If you like, subscribe. Talk to you later. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.